Sarah gently rocked her 6-month-old baby, Liam, in her arms, hoping to soothe him to sleep. But something was different. Liam's eyes, usually bright and curious, were distant and unfocused. His tiny legs, which other babies his age kicked and wiggled endlessly, lay completely still. Sarah's heart tightened with a growing unease she couldn't shake. Just a few days earlier, a visit to the pediatrician had led to an urgent referral to a specialist. The diagnosis was brutal. Liam had a rare neurological condition that paralyzed him from the waist down. His spinal cord was damaged, leaving his legs numb and motionless. There was no clear cause, no injury, just a cruel mystery that left doctors baffled. Sarah and her husband Daniel sat in the sterile hospital room, the cold light flickering overhead, clutching Liam's small body as the doctor explained the harsh reality. "It's a progressive disorder," the neurologist said gently. "Physical therapy might help maintain what function he has, but full recovery is unlikely." The words hit like a thunderclap. Sarah's mind raced, trying to grasp the enormity of what lay ahead. How would their perfect little baby grow up unable to walk, crawl, or even stand? The future they had imagined was slipping away with every passing moment. Daniel, usually calm and optimistic, was at a loss too. They spent the next few days shuttling between specialists, trying to absorb everything they could. Nights were the hardest. Liam slept most of the time, but when awake, he was quiet and unresponsive. No coos, no laughter, just an empty silence that echoed in the house. Back home, their once lively nursery felt cold and lonely. The toys sat untouched, and the mobile above Liam's crib spun slowly in the still air. Sarah stared at the ceiling, clutching Liam's tiny hand, willing a spark of life to return. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered to Daniel one night as they sat side by side, exhausted and broken. Daniel squeezed her hand tightly. "We'll find a way. We have to." But hope was hard to come by. One afternoon, Daniel came home with an unexpected surprise, a small golden retriever puppy with big, trusting eyes. "I thought Max could bring some light into our lives," Daniel said, gently lifting the puppy into Sarah's arms. Sarah was hesitant. A puppy meant more responsibility, more noise, more unpredictability. How could they possibly care for a pet with everything else going on? Yet as Max nuzzled Liam's blanket, licking his tiny fingers with a soft, warm tongue, something inside Sarah softened. Over the next few days, Max quietly settled into their home. He was gentle and calm, never overwhelming Liam or the family. When Liam cried in discomfort, Max would come closer, resting his head near the baby's chest. The sight brought the first faint smiles to Sarah and Daniel's faces in weeks. They began to notice small changes, subtle but powerful. Liam's fingers twitched when Max was near, and sometimes he would turn his head slightly toward the puppy's playful bark. For the first time since the diagnosis, a fragile hope stirred. That little puppy was more than just a pet. He was a silent companion, a source of comfort, and maybe, just maybe, the miracle Liam needed. From the moment Max stepped paw into the quiet house, his presence was like a soft breeze breaking through the heavy stillness that had settled over Sarah, Daniel, and Liam. The tiny golden retriever puppy with his floppy ears and wide, trusting eyes seemed to carry an energy that couldn't be measured but could be felt deeply. Daniel had insisted on bringing Max home after seeing the shelter's notice about the puppy. "I know things feel hopeless right now," he said, "but maybe Max can bring some joy back into our lives." Sarah had hesitated, exhausted and overwhelmed. But when she saw Max gently curl up next to Liam's crib, something inside her stirred, an inkling of hope. The first few days, Max was careful around the fragile baby. He didn't bark loudly or jump up like a typical puppy. Instead, he moved slowly, tail wagging softly, sniffing the air around Liam with delicate curiosity. When Liam was awake, Max sat quietly beside him, as if understanding the need to be calm and gentle. Sarah and Daniel watched with growing amazement. For the first time since Liam's diagnosis, there were moments of peace in the house, small, precious moments where the weight of fear and sadness lifted, if only slightly. One afternoon, Sarah sat in the nursery, holding Liam close while Max lay at her feet. She noticed how Liam's eyes would flicker toward the puppy's golden fur as he moved. And when Max gently nudged Liam's hand with his nose, a tiny twitch caused Sarah's breath to catch. Could it be? Had Max somehow sparked a reaction in Liam's paralyzed limbs? The idea seemed impossible, but Sarah's heart clung to every hopeful sign. She began to quietly encourage the puppy to spend more time with Liam, watching how the baby responded. Day by day, the bond between Liam and Max grew stronger. Max would follow Sarah around the house during Liam's naps, always keeping close. When Liam cried in discomfort, Max would appear suddenly, licking his face softly and resting his warm head on the baby's chest, as if offering comfort beyond words. Daniel started filming the moments, small twitches, gentle smiles, fleeting eye contact that no one had dared hope for in months. "This puppy," Daniel said one evening as they reviewed the footage, "he's more than just a pet. He's Liam's friend, his motivator." Sarah smiled for the first time in days, feeling a flicker of optimism she hadn't known since Liam's diagnosis. Maybe Max wasn't just a random dog. Maybe he was something special, something meant to be part of their family's healing. The days turned into weeks, and Max's presence became a routine balm for the household. The puppy's gentle energy seemed to fill the rooms with warmth, replacing the silence that had once felt so heavy. Liam's therapists even noticed a subtle difference during sessions, slightly more responsiveness, a hint of muscle movement that hadn't been there before. One evening, as rain pattered softly against the windows, Sarah sat beside Liam's crib, watching Max do something she never expected. The puppy placed his front paws on the crib's edge and looked up at the baby with wide, hopeful eyes. Liam's foot twitched. Then again. Max wagged his tail excitedly, almost like he understood what had just happened. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Was it a miracle, or the quiet power of love and companionship? Whatever it was, Sarah knew this journey had changed forever. And Max was at the heart of it. The days following that rainy afternoon became a turning point in the quiet household. Sarah couldn't stop replaying the moment in her mind. Max, the golden puppy, placing his paws on Liam's crib, and the subtle twitch of Liam's foot that followed. It felt like the first fragile thread of hope weaving its way through the family's tangled emotions. Each morning, Sarah and Daniel would watch Max and Liam closely, waiting for any sign of progress. The baby, who had been so still and silent for months, began to show tiny, almost imperceptible reactions. When Max approached, Liam's fingers twitched. When the puppy barked softly, Liam's eyes would track the sound. It was as if Max's gentle presence was awakening something deep inside Liam's paralyzed body. Sarah often found herself sitting beside the crib, talking softly to Liam, while Max lay beside her, his head resting on her lap. "You're not alone," Sarah whispered. "We're here, and Max is here too. We'll get through this together." The bond between the baby and the puppy was growing stronger every day. And it wasn't just the family who noticed. Liam's physical therapist, Rachel, came for weekly sessions, and she too was surprised by the changes. Usually, Liam's limbs remained rigid and unresponsive during exercises. But now, with Max nearby, there was movement, small but unmistakable. One afternoon, Rachel smiled as she observed Liam flex a tiny muscle in his leg. "This is progress," she said gently, her voice filled with cautious optimism. Sometimes, the right kind of emotional connection can stimulate the nervous system in ways we don't fully understand. Daniel felt a surge of hope he hadn't dared feel before. "It's Max," he said, watching the puppy nudge Liam's hand with his nose. "He's like a little therapist himself." At night, when the house grew quiet and the world outside was wrapped in darkness, Max would curl up beside Liam's crib, keeping a silent vigil. Sarah would often peek in to find Max's golden fur shimmering softly in the moonlight, his eyes half closed but alert, as if guarding his tiny human friend. One evening, after a particularly hard day filled with tears and frustration, Sarah sat on the floor beside Liam's crib. She gently held his hand and spoke to him about the journey ahead. Max, sensing the heavy mood, pressed his body close to Sarah, offering warmth and comfort. Suddenly, Liam's fingers twitched. Then again, slightly stronger this time. Sarah gasped, tears spilling down her cheeks. It was the first real, unmistakable movement since the diagnosis. Daniel rushed in, and the three of them sat together, awestruck by the moment. The house seemed to breathe with new life. As weeks passed, the family's routine shifted around Liam and Max's growing friendship. Playtime wasn't just about toys anymore. It was about interactions, gentle touches, and the joyful presence of a puppy who refused to leave Liam's side. Neighbors and friends began to hear about the unusual bond. Messages of encouragement flooded in from strangers inspired by the story of a baby and his puppy. Sarah and Daniel started a small blog to share their journey, hoping to spread the message of hope and resilience. Through it all, Max remained steady, a beacon of unconditional love. He didn't know he was a miracle. He just knew he belonged. And for Liam, that was everything. It was a quiet, rainy afternoon when the house seemed to hold its breath. Liam was asleep in his crib, wrapped in his favorite soft blanket, his tiny chest rising and falling in a slow, peaceful rhythm. Sarah sat nearby, her eyes fixed on him, heart heavy yet hopeful. She never wanted to miss a moment. Every breath, every twitch. Max, the golden retriever puppy, was lying close by, his head resting gently on Liam's blanket. He had become a fixture in the room, always near the baby, always watchful. Sarah smiled softly, watching the way Max's breathing matched the calm stillness of the room. Suddenly, Max stirred. Without warning, he jumped up and placed his front paws on the side of Liam's crib. His eyes, bright and full of focus, locked on the sleeping baby. For a moment, the house was silent except for the gentle patter of rain against the window. Then something incredible happened. Liam's foot twitched. Then again. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She rubbed her eyes, thinking it was a trick of her imagination. But when she looked back, Max was wagging his tail quietly, his body alert and expectant. Liam's foot twitched once more deliberately this time. Sarah whispered Daniel's name, barely able to contain her excitement. Daniel rushed into the room, eyes wide with disbelief. They watched, almost holding their breath, as Max continued to nudge the crib gently with his paws, and Liam responded with small, deliberate movements. For months, Sarah and Daniel had hoped for any sign, any indication that their son's body was waking up from paralysis. And now, in this moment of quiet wonder, it was happening. "I can't believe it," Daniel murmured, voice trembling. "This has to be a miracle." But what exactly was causing it? Was it Max's gentle encouragement, the warmth of his fur, or something deeper, an unspoken bond that transcended the limits of medicine and science? They had no answers, only the profound feeling that Liam was fighting back, and Max was leading the charge. The next days were a whirlwind of emotion. Sarah and Daniel reviewed the baby monitor footage frame by frame, capturing every twitch, every subtle movement. They shared the videos with Liam's doctors, unsure of how the medical community would react. At first, the neurologists were skeptical. Spontaneous movement can sometimes occur in these cases, but it's rare, one doctor explained cautiously. "We need more data." But as more footage came in, showing consistent responses linked to Max's presence, even the most doubtful specialists had to reconsider. New tests revealed slight but undeniable signs of nerve activity in Liam's legs, a discovery that had been missing in previous exams. Though the road ahead remained uncertain, the family's spirits soared. The paralysis hadn't lifted completely, but for the first time since diagnosis, there was undeniable progress. Sarah often sat by Liam's crib in those days, fingers entwined with her babies, watching Max lie faithfully beside them. The puppy had become more than just a pet. He was a source of hope, a gentle healer, and a steadfast friend. That rainy afternoon marked a turning point, a silent miracle in a house once filled with despair. The journey was far from over, but Liam and Max had taken the first step together, and it was a step toward light. Sarah still remembered the moment she found the baby monitor's playback button and pressed it, half hoping, half afraid to see what she might have missed. The day Max had placed his paws on Liam's crib, and the miraculous twitches had followed, felt like a dream. She needed to see it again, to believe it was real. The screen flickered to life, and there it was, the golden puppy gently pawing the crib, while Liam's small foot twitched twice, then once more, almost as if responding to Max's silent encouragement. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring the screen but not her certainty. Daniel came over just as the footage played again. They watched in silence, hearts pounding. The camera caught something no one else had witnessed live, a connection between Liam and Max that was pure and undeniable. "I'm going to show this to the doctor," Daniel said, his voice steady despite the excitement building inside him. When they arrived at the clinic, Liam's neurologist viewed the footage with careful skepticism, but as the video played again, the doctor's eyes widened slightly. "This is unusual," he admitted. "We've never seen anything quite like it." More tests were ordered immediately: scans, nerve conduction studies, physical assessments. While some of the results were inconclusive, one thing was clear: Liam's nervous system was showing signs of activity that hadn't appeared in earlier exams. The doctors remained cautious. "It's too soon to call it a breakthrough," the neurologist explained. "But this movement, especially if it continues, could indicate potential for improvement." Outside the clinic, Daniel and Sarah felt a cautious hope blooming. They had long lived in fear and uncertainty, but now, armed with this evidence, hope felt tangible, something they could grasp. Back home, Sarah started capturing more moments on camera. She filmed Max's gentle nudges, his careful play, and Liam's small but growing responses. Each video became a testament to the bond growing between the boy and his puppy. One afternoon, Sarah uploaded some clips to a private online group for parents of children with paralysis and neurological disorders. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from strangers who had experienced similar struggles, many expressing encouragement, others sharing stories of unexpected progress. "It's inspiring," one parent wrote. "Sometimes love and companionship are the best medicine." Max seemed to understand his role in Liam's life more each day. He'd sit patiently during therapy sessions, lying quietly next to Liam's physical therapist, Rachel, who had started incorporating the puppy into her exercises. Max's presence made Liam more engaged, his tiny muscles working a little harder. Therapy became something different, less clinical, more joyful. The household began to fill with laughter again. Max's playful antics brought smiles and even light-hearted moments amid the seriousness of Liam's condition. Sarah found herself capturing videos not only for medical progress, but also for memories. The puppy chasing his tail, Liam reaching toward Max's wagging tail, the two becoming inseparable. At night, Sarah and Daniel often sat together, scrolling through the footage, marveling at how a small puppy had become a beacon of hope. "Max changed everything," Daniel said one evening, pulling Sarah close. "He's more than a dog. He's part of this family's miracle." Sarah nodded, eyes shining with gratitude. "I never imagined a puppy could bring so much light into our lives." As the days passed, the family knew there were still challenges ahead, but with every captured movement, every wag of Max's tail, they felt a little stronger, a little more hopeful. The miracle was no longer silent. It was alive, captured on camera, and in their hearts. Weeks turned into months, and the quiet household began to hum with a new rhythm. Liam's tiny movements became more frequent and deliberate. Each morning, Sarah and Daniel woke with a spark of hope, eager to see if their son would show even the smallest sign of progress. Max was by Liam's side every step of the way, napping beside the crib during the baby's rest, eagerly greeting him when he stirred awake. The bond between the two was undeniable, a silent language built on trust and love. One bright morning, during a physical therapy session, something extraordinary happened. Rachel, Liam's therapist, had been working patiently to encourage muscle movement in Liam's legs. Max sat quietly nearby, occasionally nudging Liam's hand with his nose or licking his cheek as if cheering him on. Sarah and Daniel watched from the corner of the room, holding their breath. Suddenly, Liam's right foot twitched, not the small, reflexive movements from before, but a deliberate, purposeful flex. Rachel's eyes lit up with excitement. "Did you see that?" she exclaimed. "That was intentional." Daniel reached over and gently supported Liam's foot, encouraging the movement. Liam responded by slowly lifting his leg, a movement that seemed to take all his strength. Tears sprang to Sarah's eyes as she whispered, "You're doing it, Liam." From that moment, therapy sessions transformed into celebrations of every tiny victory. Max seemed to sense the importance of these breakthroughs, becoming more playful but always careful around Liam. Encouraged by the progress, Daniel began researching assistive technologies that might help Liam build strength and coordination. He ordered specialized equipment designed to support babies with limited mobility, hoping these tools, combined with therapy and Max's companionship, would accelerate Liam's recovery. Meanwhile, Sarah continued documenting every step. Her blog, once a private place to share updates with close friends, had grown into a small community of supporters from around the world. Messages flooded in daily, stories of hope, advice, and encouragement. One message stood out, a note from a canine therapy specialist who offered to visit and work with Max and Liam to further strengthen their bond and aid Liam's recovery. Excited and hopeful, Sarah and Daniel welcomed the specialist, who introduced new exercises involving Max's playful interaction with Liam. The puppy would gently tug on specially designed toys, while Liam reached out, encouraging coordination and muscle use. The sessions were joyful, filled with laughter and excitement. Max seemed to understand his new role, becoming an active participant in Liam's healing. Outside of therapy, Max was a source of endless entertainment and comfort. He chased his tail, snuggled with Liam, and became the heart of the household. At night, Sarah often reflected on the journey. From the bleak diagnosis to these hopeful breakthroughs, the family had been through a whirlwind of emotions. Yet through it all, Max's unwavering companionship had been a constant source of strength. Liam's progress was far from complete, but the promise of recovery was no longer a distant dream. It was unfolding before their eyes, one small movement at a time. For Sarah and Daniel, every twitch, every smile, and every wag of Max's tail was a reminder that miracles could happen in the most unexpected ways. As spring turned to summer, the house was filled with a new kind of energy. Liam's progress, slow but steady, was a beacon of hope not only for Sarah and Daniel, but also for the extended family and friends who had been following the journey. What had once seemed impossible now felt like a real, tangible possibility. Liam might one day walk. Max remained the heart of the household, his golden fur and gentle eyes a constant reminder of how much love and patience could heal. The bond between Liam and Max deepened every day, becoming a source of comfort during challenging moments and a catalyst for joy. One morning, Sarah was helping Liam practice sitting up with the support of a special cushion. Max lay beside the crib, watching intently. Suddenly, Liam shifted his weight, struggling but determined. His tiny hands grasped the cushion's edges, and with a burst of effort, he lifted his head higher than ever before. Sarah gasped, tears welling up. "You did it, Liam," she whispered, her voice trembling. Max barked softly, tail wagging furiously, as if cheering him on. Daniel joined them, smiling broadly. "This is incredible," he said. "Every small step is a victory." Encouraged by the progress, the family started planning ways to keep nurturing Liam's growth. They set up a dedicated therapy corner in the living room, filled with toys and equipment to stimulate movement and coordination. Max became a natural part of the routine, fetching toys and nudging Liam to reach out. At night, Sarah often thought about how much this journey had changed her. The fear and helplessness that had consumed her seemed distant now, replaced by a fierce determination to celebrate every triumph, no matter how small. Through it all, the family's story spread beyond their circle. Local news outlets picked up on the remarkable bond between Liam and Max, calling it a miracle of love and hope. The community rallied around them, organizing fundraisers to support Liam's ongoing therapy. One particularly emotional moment came when a local children's hospital invited Liam and Max to visit. The staff wanted to learn more about the unique therapy involving the puppy and how it might help other children with paralysis. Sarah and Daniel hesitated at first, unsure if Liam was ready, but when they saw how excited he was at the idea, especially with Max wagging his tail eagerly, they agreed. The hospital visit was a turning point. Liam's gentle interactions with other children and the way Max engaged with the young patients inspired everyone present. Therapists, doctors, and families watched in awe as Liam reached out to pet Max, his fingers wrapping around the puppy's soft fur. The visit sparked new research ideas about animal-assisted therapy for paralysis, opening doors for other families facing similar challenges. Back at home, Sarah found herself reflecting on how far they had come. From the dark days after Liam's diagnosis to these moments filled with laughter, connection, and hope, it had been a journey marked by love, resilience, and an unbreakable bond between a baby and his puppy. As the sun set on another day filled with small victories, Sarah held Liam close, feeling his heartbeat against her chest. Max curled up at their feet, his presence a constant source of warmth. In that quiet moment, Sarah knew the road ahead would still have obstacles, but with Max by their side, and the power of hope in their hearts, they could face anything. The house was alive with soft laughter and quiet joy. Liam, now 7 months old, was growing stronger every day. Though his journey was far from over, every small movement, every smile, every connection was a victory worth celebrating. Sarah and Daniel often marveled at the miracle unfolding before their eyes, a miracle that had begun with a puppy's gentle touch. Max, now a bit bigger but still the same golden-hearted companion, was inseparable from Liam. The puppy had grown into his role as protector, friend, and silent encourager. Where Liam went, Max was never far behind. One sunny afternoon, Sarah set up a play session in the garden. Liam lay on a soft blanket, surrounded by colorful toys, and Max bounded around happily, chasing butterflies and occasionally nudging Liam's hand to encourage him to reach out. Daniel captured the moment on video, his heart swelling with pride. The world could see what they had witnessed every day, the incredible bond between a baby and his puppy that had sparked hope and healing. As the summer breeze brushed softly through the trees, Liam surprised everyone once more. With Max sitting patiently nearby, Liam reached his tiny hand forward and grasped Max's fur firmly. The puppy's tail wagged excitedly, as if celebrating the milestone alongside the family. Sarah and Daniel exchanged amazed glances. This simple act, a baby's ability to reach and hold, was more than just a physical accomplishment. It was a symbol of resilience, love, and the power of never giving up. The months ahead held many challenges, but the family was ready. They had learned that miracles don't always come as lightning bolts or grand gestures. Sometimes they come as quiet moments, tiny movements that build upon each other, step by step. With the support of their community, therapists, and the unwavering love of Max, Liam's future was filled with promise. Sarah often reflected on how the darkest moments had led them here. The diagnosis that had once threatened to break their hearts had been met with courage, hope, and an unexpected hero, a golden puppy who had changed their lives forever. One evening, As Liam slept peacefully, Sarah knelt beside his crib and whispered, "You're a fighter, my sweet boy. And with Max by your side, you can do anything." Max settled at her feet, looking up with wise, gentle eyes as if understanding every word. The family had found strength in the unlikeliest of places, a reminder that sometimes, when hope feels lost, it can return in the form of a furry friend, a loving touch, and the courage to keep believing. And so, their story continued, not just as a tale of struggle and healing, but as a celebration of life, love, and the miracles that happen when we refuse to give up.